Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Property Council of Australia's Downtown Breakfast, the economics of affordable housing. And I think today is this is the last of our series of Downtown Breakfast for 2009. It is. I'm being assured it is.
One of the things that's been sort of raised in the last couple of weeks is Anna's bush bonus. Are there any other strategies the government sort of could possibly consider, other than a $3,000 sort of gift in terms of moving to the bush? Is there any other mechanism that you think may work to keep the pressure off the southeast corner?
I alluded to it in my talk. I can't go into too much detail, but we have been asked by the Minister's office to look at housing affordability in the regions, and we are working with probably around about 8 councils at this point with various positions of discussion about how we might help. What really has intrigued me as I go around Queensland is the health of some of these communities and the vibrancy in the areas, and it's resource driven, but how that has caused pressures. And I think what we can do with our part, working with those councils, to improve the affordability in those regions, and in some cases improving the livability, so that there is in fact an extra pull for people to go there.
I think there's 2 questions, and I'm not sure exactly what the bush bonus is designed to do, but will it attract people into regional locations? I don't think $3,000 would even pay for the visit to have a look at it. The issue with regional towns isn't about incentivising people. The issue is with the actual underlying product. We went into Mackay 3 years ago, and the feedback from the market up there was, we want an 800 square metre lot. We need to be able to house the boat in the backyard. We need a big shed for the motorcycles and so on. These regional towns, not all of them, but a lot of them are experiencing the lowest unemployment rates in Australia. So a housing affordability question, whether it's an issue or not. Essential service providers, no doubt there may be issues because the cost of housing here is very, very high. Back to the Mackay point, great opposition to putting anything but 800 square metre lots on the ground. We were the first to do it. We put 600 square metre lots on the ground, and we're going to 450s as we speak. And the simple equation was, we can give you the 800, it's going to cost you $50,000 more, or we can give you the 600, what do you want? The whole point was that you could have the shed in the back of the 600, so, the problem was solved. They save 50K, and, we've probably got the best performing project in Mackay at the moment because we met the market with product as opposed to price or rebate or whatever the case may be. The same as in Townsville. You've got to lead the market, and you've got to bring the market along through your product, not through a whole range of other financial mechanisms.
I'd follow that through as well with a little bit more of a Western focus, if you like. I grew up in the bush and spent large part of my early part of my life out there, and in those days, most of the small towns were well serviced with government departments. You had a fairly strong police presence. You had CPS officers, clerk of the court. You'd have a DPI officer and somebody to support that. You'd have stock squad. There'd be, in any sort of reasonable town of say 1,000 people, you'd have 30 or 40 or 50 of the government institutions and instrumentalities would have people on the ground. You also had banks in the towns. You had the large stock and station agents were there as well. The government decentralised, pulled all that stuff back to the next biggest town, and then the banks followed, and then the stock and station agents followed. So if you go back into a lot of the smaller towns, there's just no economy really other than the rural sector that provides the revenue through the place, and the few people that have a job work in the local checkout or work in the local dress shop or the cafe. So really looking at going the bonus, taking people west, the only place that you get a job is follow the resources boom. And you can see that happening. You can go out through, Chinchilla had it a few years ago with Kogan, coal going out there and the energy around that area, and there was a property boom. Houses that were 7 or 8 years ago you could buy for 80 grand suddenly cost you 350. Rents at 350 and $400 a square week, so dollars a week. So you have the same sort of issues as a lot of the property prices out there are similar to what you get in Brisbane. So you haven't really solved the affordability issue just by giving somebody $3,000 to go somewhere other than southeast Queensland. So.
Yeah, I think probably along Mal's lines, if you want people to go out to the regions, you need to provide jobs for them. That's what will drive their movement. But it's questionable to say, well, if you're trying to reduce the growth in southeast Queensland, how are you going to generate jobs elsewhere? I just don't think she's on the right line with that. I think we do have to look sort of internally for those sort of affordability solutions, and I think more broadly, you can't say that southeast Queensland is crowded. You know, we've got, or Greater Brisbane has one of the lowest population densities of any of Australia's cities. So I think you have to look at that and say, well, what can we do to be more efficient and more effective on how we house people? And we've got to look at innovation, and I think we saw a lot of pretty good stuff from Paul, be it that he might have borrowed it from some of the other good developers around town. But that's the sort of stuff that I think we need to do, and don't kid ourselves that we're overcrowded. Because I mean, if people really think that, then maybe you need to move somewhere else.
Look, I don't disagree, and I think a great example of that is Townsville. Townsville sort of had a stage where they were sort of stagnated for a while, and with the release of some enormous tracts of lands close to the CBD, if you fly into Townsville or drive into Townsville, they've got there's an abundance of inner city living. So they've sort of taken Townsville from a place where, if you moved to Townsville, you moved out into the outlying areas, and there's a lot of infill dwellings here. And I think that was something that was led by the council of the time to say, no, infill housing is okay, and I think it takes robust local government and robust state government to say where we've got available development areas close to the CBD, close to the transport, close to the cultural amenities, close to all the sort of the things you need for life. You've really actually got to get in and go for it. You've got to get into sort of West End and South Brisbane, where we are largely sort of factories that are now somewhat locationally redundant. And I think we need a council, and I think we need a state government and an industry that's prepared to stand up and say, this is the appropriate spot for some high density living, and that doesn't mean 6 levels. That actually means 15 to 20.
Now that brings us to the end of today's event. Thank you. If you've got any comments, as usual, write them on the back of your name tag, or by all means see any of the staff here and have a discussion with us. Thank you, and we look forward to welcoming you at future events. Enjoy the rest of your day.